Hello, and welcome to Straight No Chaser with Dr. Julius Bailey. As you know, I am Dr. Julius Bailey, and we are live on the frigid but yet beautiful campus of Wittenberg University. And excuse me for a minute, a little technical difficulty. I was wondering why I had music in my ears. So sorry about that. We are live on the frigid yet beautiful campus of Wittenberg. It's kind of cold today, and it's even cold in this little studio room. But I feel all right. I'm gonna be warmed up by some powerful conversation today. If this is your first time to Straight No Chaser, welcome. I appreciate you. You know, we're coming to the close of our second season. We've been doing this since July, and it's been fun. It's definitely been fun. And so we are a 1 hour digital talk show where we bring you news, culture, politics, and you know, if you enjoy what you like today, or you think is interesting, please like the Straight No Chaser page. We're also on YouTube at Straight No Chaser. You can subscribe to that as well. You know, listen, you know, tomorrow, as you know, is a big day in America. It's probably a big day in the world. I think everybody in the world waiting to see what's going to happen in America tomorrow. But as we know, we may not even know tomorrow night all the outcomes of all the races. But certainly we want to make sure that you are involved. So have you voted yet? I know I voted on Friday, and it was pretty fun. It was cold that day, though. I ain't going to lie. But I was excited to vote for my friend and my colleague, who actually is the first guest today for a few minutes. She's very busy in this last moment. And so I wanted to let my audience know that I support her and that many that I know support her. And I want you, Straight No Chaser audience, to show some love to, like I said, my colleague and the first guest, and her name is Dr. Cynthia Richards. She is vying for the State House District 79. And just welcome to the show, Dr. Richards.
Hello, Dr. Bailey. How good to see you this morning. And thank you so much for giving me some time on your show this morning. You know, I just want to say before we start talking about my campaign and this election, just how much I admire the work that you're doing on this show every week, and just the wealth of talent and scholars and expertise and perspectives that you bring to our community. Every time I can catch this show, I watch it, and I just really appreciate what you do for our community, Julius. Just appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Thank you. And you know, and sometimes, you know, that means a lot on special days. And today is one of those days I just needed a little encouragement. So thank you. Well, look, here we are, right? Hours from the official day that you've been preparing for. So tell us, like, I mean, I would say, other than, this is me speaking, other than the fundamental need for us to be sort of out from under the kind of, I would call, the dangerous thumb of Kyle Kohler, especially dangerous for women and minorities. What was that sort of aha moment, that light that convinced you to run for state representative?
You know, Julius, I think that I had it's almost been like a series of aha moments, because what happens when you're out here and you're talking to people is that the depth in which you know things increases, right? So we know things kind of intellectually, especially you and me, Bailey, where we're, Julius, I mean, where we are like studying topics or doing our research. But when you get out on the trail and you're talking to people, you start to know things in the depths of your soul.
Right.
And there are two things that have happened, I think even just over the last few months, that have been sort of those sort of deepening aha moments. One was a forum where both my opponent and I appeared, and we had probably what was our most extended debate of this election cycle. And I heard my opponent say this phrase multiple times: as your state representative, there is nothing I can do about that. Now, what he was being asked about was how to maintain equity in homes, do home improvements in historic neighborhoods right here on the south side of Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
He said, as your state representative, there's just nothing I can do about that. Second question was, what do we do about restoring a grocery store to the south side of Springfield, where we can make sure that we have access to nutritious food, close, and convenience?
Sure.
And he said, as your state representative, there is nothing I can do about that. Now, I know what he would say. He would say, that's a local issue. We've got to attract businesses. I understand that. But as a representative, there's always something you can do. You have a platform. You can, like you're doing it now, Julius, you're doing it now, right? You have a platform. You can educate. You can draw attention. He said that twice in that event and on key issues. The second has been, because when I went into this, I knew there would be key policy differences between myself and my opponent. But what I didn't know is that it would be as simple as, I care, and he doesn't. And the other has been my favorite part of campaigning, which is dropping literature throughout all parts of District 79. You probably know this. I know you know this about me already, Julius. I love to talk and I love to listen. I love to communicate. I love to hear what people are thinking and feeling. And I have made it to go to every part of our community. And I go to these communities. They don't know his name. They've never been there. He's never been there. They are hurting. And I mean, not hurting a little bit, a lot. They're not being heard. They're not being responded to. And by going and just talking, I can see the power first of research. Right now I know what some of these needs are, and I'm ready. Like, I am so ready to go to work when I win this thing. I'm going to go to work and I'm going to start addressing those needs. But I know what the needs are. I've talked to people. But also what I've done is I've made it clear to these communities that, look, your representative is supposed to represent you, everyone in this community. And so as I've been, and just yesterday, I talked to 2 or 3, 4 more people yesterday, and the day before and the day before. Every time I have one of those conversations and I understand and know more what the stakes are in our community, I feel even more this commitment to winning this for our community and understanding that we have not been well represented in our community. Another aha moment. This is a research one. The median income in our community has declined 19.3% since 1999. That means nearly everyone in our community is struggling more today than they were when my opponent took office, just to pay their bills, just to care for their children, to maintain their homes, to buy their groceries, to take care of their health. That is an emergency situation. That is a crisis. And we have people in our state house who are not treating the work of this position as a call to action to address the urgent needs of our community.
Wow. I mean, and yet there's nothing he could do about it. I recently saw a commercial that spoke to your sincerity of spirit, that sort of leads to your sort of cross-party appeal. I do want to show the audience that commercial real quick.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Tittle.
My name is Larry Ricketts.
I'm Kim Fish.
I'm Bobby Tittle.
I'm Bob Lancaster.
I'm an independent voter.
I'm a lifelong Republican.
For the last 30 years, I've been registered as an independent.
I come from a very, very Republican family.
I've been a Republican, a Democrat, and an independent.
But it's time for a change.
I chose to vote for Cynthia Richards.
I'm picking Cynthia Richards.
I'm going to vote for Cynthia Richards.
I'm going with Cynthia Richards.
I do my own research.
I have chose myself to do research on each individual person.
And when it comes to deciding who's best for our community, I pick the person, not the party.
She knows that the 2 most valuable resources we have in Clark County are our residents and our great water supply. Cynthia will fight hard for us to make sure that the residents keep that water supply safe.
I've done my homework, and she's the right choice for the things that I care about: education, access to health care, and economic opportunity for all.
I feel that we need a change, and I feel that she's the change that we need in Ohio.
She is a smart, dedicated, and hardworking woman who will represent all of us.
I believe in the views that she has and the respect that she has for this community.
I don't care what your party affiliation is. We want somebody who's going to listen to all of us and work really hard for us. And that's Cynthia Richards.
Vote Cynthia Richards for the 79th District.
So, you know, someone has watched that video before, and someone is going to watch it when they watch this show. And it's going to be the first time that they watched it. And they're going to sort of see what all of us who know you already know, which is that you are a caring person, and yet you are also a bulldog. All right? You are definitely a bulldog. And so I guess I just want to ask you, like, as we kind of close this session and just think about everything we have to do, just kind of, you know, just take a few minutes and explain to someone who may have just seen that commercial or made today, had said, you know what, I don't know if I was going to go vote, but I think I might vote today. Just tell everybody why they should consider you.
Thanks for that opportunity. They should consider me because let me back up and say it this way. When I started this campaign, I knew on, again, an intellectual level that it mattered how people voted this November. Mm. And I still know on an intellectual level that no matter how this comes out on Tuesday, I've gone through hard stuff. I've won things. I've lost things. I'm going to be fine. But what I know now, and I know first what the needs of our community are, and I also know what a state representative does.
Right.
What I know now is I'll be fine on Wednesday, no matter the outcome. But the people of this community will not be fine. Mm-hmm. Their needs, their interests are not being represented. And you need to vote for someone who's not in it for themselves. And I know Dr. Bailey will attest to this. I am an advocate for others. That's when I'm a bulldog. I'm a nice woman when it comes, but I am an advocate for others, and I don't stop fighting for the people I care for and the people I represent. And that is my colleagues at Wittenberg, that is my students in my classroom, and that is everyone. And I mean everyone. Democrats, Republicans, independents, first-time voters.
Right.
I'm going to be in that state house fighting and advocating for you. And I'm not going to assume I have the answers. I'm going to assume you have the answers, and that it's my job to talk to you, to bring you to the table and to listen, and then go fight for you with all the skills I have and all the energy I have and all the passion I have to make sure your lives are better, your children's lives are better, and that together as a community, we prosper. So please get out there today and vote. Vote for a change. Vote for a better community for all of us. Vote for a representative who's really, really going to fight for you. And I promise you, I will never say, there's nothing I can do about that. I will always say, there is something I can do to help you. And it is my job to do that.
Amen. My brother Stephen, I wish I could have made a commercial with that one right now. I would never say. All right, Dr. Richards, we thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Again, may God be with you today in your peace of spirit and mind, and allow, just allow this moment to sort of carry you in peace.
Thank you so much. And back to you, Julius. My thoughts, my heart are with you in the next few days. We're in this together. We are in this together.
No question. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk about this toward the end of the show, but just vote, right? If you're in Clark County, you have till 2 o'clock, I think, today, to go vote. So you certainly want to make sure that you do. I know they're voting in Montgomery County as well, and so you know how much I am a fan of LaRonda Jackson out there in the Trotwood area as your state rep, and so you want to get in with her too. But look, we're going to move forward. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Our next guest is my dear sister from the South Side of Chicago, the Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rose Spalding. She is the Women's and Ethnic Study professor at University of Colorado in Colorado Springs. I had to make sure I said that because yesterday I think I said a Colorado State to somebody, and I was like, no, that's not where she teaches. She is also the senior pastor at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and she's also the former candidate for Congress, the 5th Congressional District in 2018. Good morning, Dr. Spalding.
Good morning. Good morning. And I just want to say, because I was listening, that she's a powerhouse. So Ohio, y'all better get out and vote.
Amen. Now that's good. I was going to ask you too, what did you think of, again, just as a first look at her, right? What does that mean? And so, and you've seen this over and over again, right?
Yes.
Folk folk who you've supported, folk you've run against. And so, your first thought of her, you said, hey, she's a powerhouse.
She is a powerhouse. Just listening to her, hearing her heart. She's absolutely right. You never want to put anybody in office that tells you they can't do anything for you. Why am I paying you? Because essentially that is what's happening. Why are we giving you our vote, our time, our money, our trust? If you can't do anything, if nothing else, you can leverage your position, right?
Right.
I don't even hold office, and I'm out here advocating for people in community that are, just left and cast aside because having ran, I now know individuals who are in these positions and can do something. So like you leveraging your platform, me leveraging my network and platform, that's what we have to do if you genuinely care about addressing the issues that people are facing.
Right. No, that's real. But I'm looking at you in the corner. I'm trying not to look at you, trying to look at the screen like I'm supposed to, but it's just good to lay eyes on you. It's been a while since I've physically seen you, and far too long. I sometimes tell folk, and I'll tell the audience that I first met Professor Spalding, or Dr. Spalding, or Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rose. I first met her at the National Council of Black Studies a long time ago, back in, I don't know if it was 2010, 2011. And you came into the building like rolling like a rock star, And I'm like, who is she? Like, what I'm saying? Like all the Purdue folk and all your grad students that you had had worked with, and you had left and moved on, and they were all showing you love, and all the Clark Atlanta folk that was in the building. I was low key like, who is this chick? You know what I'm saying? But we came to bond, and I've certainly appreciated your friendship, your example of service, obviously your religious calling, and your academic rigor. And so I just thank you for being an example for us all. So we need to kind of start with some questions, because I know I'm going to sit up here and laugh and giggle with you for a while. So
I know it's like a family reunion. I was going to say, NCBS is like homecoming because it's only 500 people in higher education.
So look, let's just start kind of locally where you are. Tomorrow, right? I just want to ask you, like, what's the bellwether? Can we expect Cory Gardner to be unseated by what's his name, Hooken Looper or whatever? I'm sorry,
It's okay.
But I know you know him well, so
And I will say, I think that the people of Colorado, not necessarily focusing on the individual who is running, but I think the people of Colorado are going to give Cory Gardner his walking papers, even though it is not the kind of race that I'd hoped for. And individuals are not as excited in a sense about the particular candidate this election cycle across the board at the federal level and even in some state races has been more of a referendum against this current administration, as opposed to the kind of fervor and excitement people felt in 2008 with the election of Barack Obama, right? And that's okay. Sometimes we have to reset and regroup in order to move forward. And that's what I think a lot of people will end up doing across this country, is resetting so that we can move forward. And we're swallowing a hard pill. And this is probably just, my political encouragement to everyone else, that tomorrow is not the end all be all. It is day one of the rest of your commitment to the democratic process, right? Because we will have to hold these people accountable. We will have to stay in this work for local and midterm seasons. And that's what happened after 2008. A lot of people just fell off as if there was a magic wand wave and the world, was suddenly in this post-racial, post-racist state. And we realized, for those who didn't before, that that's not the case.
No, that's real. So obviously that's the only race that I pay attention to. I know there's going to be some people who are watching this who are from Colorado, who support you and just who follow you. Can you tell us anything else that's interesting to you in your state that's going on?
Absolutely. So our top of the ticket races are important, and that's important for anyone across the country, because we need Hickenlooper in order to secure the Senate, right?
Right.
But we also have state races. We have judicial, district attorney races. I'm gunning for Amy Patton to win her district attorney race that covers parts of Arapahoe County, because criminal justice reform is essential if you care about Black lives, right? If you say that Black lives matter, then you need to be doing the work around judges. You need to be doing the work around district attorneys. We also are working to hold on to our state legislature, right? So in the midterms last cycle, Colorado went blue for the first time in both the House and the Colorado House and the Colorado Senate. And we need to maintain that this election cycle too. So there are local House races that I am invested in. A lot of them are women. There are county commissioner races. Martha Loachman up in Boulder County, if you're listening, please make sure that she gets in that seat, because we need progressive women of color in every seat possible from my perspective. But yes, there are certainly local races. And then we're also watching another congressional race where Diane Mitzbush, there are two women. The Republican woman is utterly ridiculous running in that race, but it will be the first time that a woman wins that seat that was formerly held by Ken Buck. And Ken Buck lost in his Republican primary by a tremendously hard, right-leaning, almost anarchist in my perspective. So that tells you about this Trump ideology that has taken hold. So I am looking at that race and hope that Diane Mitzbush does become one of the next women that we send from the state of Colorado to the U.S. House.
Yeah, no, that's important information. And then it's pretty exciting just to be able to see what's going on there. Obviously here in our state of Ohio, and as you say there, and really around the nation, right? There is a sort of a wave of women legislators running, and even a very strong number of women of color, right? Obviously you've been there, you've been in the mix. Kind of talk to us about, obviously I remember, I think I remember, is it Emily's List? Is that the name of it? Yeah. And I think the first time, and I'll be honest, the first time I looked into them was because of you, right? And so I was like, who is Emily's List? And why am I looking into this? And what has this got to do with Stephanie? You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. And so I just want to ask you kind of like, what can we attribute this sort of activism and this sort of wave of influence that women and women of color are giving this nation right now?
So I will certainly say that activism in and of itself has really propelled a lot of women of color specifically into running for office. We have, since 2013, we watched the growth of Black Lives Matter movement. And that's not to say that women weren't actively engaged, and particularly women of color weren't actively engaged in their communities beforehand. But the way in which Black Lives Matter as a movement, started by 3 queer Black women, swept not just the nation, but internationally swept the social justice scene in calling for attention to the ways in which Black lives are systemically oppressed, particularly by the state law enforcement, propelled people into like on the ground grassroots organizing, and became the modern civil rights movement of our time. And so individuals like myself and Cori Bush were activated in those moments. And if you are in Missouri, please pay attention, especially Missouri. Yeah. If you're in St. Louis, vote for Cori Bush, because if y'all are impressed by AOC, look, this woman is dynamite, okay? Yeah. The Black pastor and a nurse who, again, got really activated on the ground in grassroots work during the Ferguson riots and during the Ferguson uprising. And I just want to clarify that the media articulated it as riots, but these people were protecting their homes, their lives, their families. So it was an uprising against the state that was killing them. And she got really active, like myself here in Colorado, like others in Chicago, in Texas, or what have you. And this is why she's running. And I don't want to take up all of the time, but I do want us to be very careful. Many other women, white women, got really active after 2017 and the Women's March. They began to see themselves running, even more so for office. And the 2018 election cycle was, in some ways, a pink wave in terms of women being elected to local and even some congressional races. But you brought up Emily's List, and we need funding sources like Emily's List, but they do not support in equitable ways women of color, specifically Black women. So I think of political action committees like Higher Heights and the Collective that are specific to electing Black people at the federal and even local level. And we have to do better as a community investing our dollars in candidates, right? We think that we can do a Bernie Sanders, with individuals like myself and Cori Bush, but we don't have millions of people, like 5 million people giving $3.50 to our campaign. So we have to do better in the way in which we spend our money and investing our money in candidates if we want candidates that actually represent us.
No, that's big. I'm thinking locally. I don't know if you've heard of her, but locally we have a Desiree Timms, and she's running for U.S. Senate. And it's interesting because I was having a conversation with the state Democratic leader, and we were having that similar conversation in terms of so many Black people right now in Dayton, Ohio area. And maybe I'll bring this up with our next guest, but they're so excited about, a Desiree Timms and the possibility that she will join, she would take the seat in Senate. But then, the question is, how much money are you putting into her pocket, right? How much money are you putting into her campaign, right? It's one thing to sort of, tweet, and it's another thing to sort of give $20, $50, $100, and then I realized that, I know it's not easy. Everybody say, I got this going on, that going on, but I'm always one, and I'm not here to really act all sort of paternalistic, but I am here to, to say that we all got a little money we can give. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got it.
The Democratic Party, the national the DCCC and the DSC. So those are the congressional fundraising arms of the Democratic Party, as well as the Senate fundraising arm of the Democratic Party. We have to hold them to task too. And yes, by affiliation, I am a registered Democrat. However, that doesn't mean that they are free from my critique. And they do not invest in Black women. They ask for our votes, but they do not fundraise and invest in ways for Black women to actually get into these offices in the ways that they rely on us as a voting bloc. And we have to hold them to task and stop sending them money if they are not going to invest in us.
That's important. That's important information. That's important information for my audience to know. And it's going to be something I'll talk to you off air another time to kind of get a little more versed on that so that I can, help to be a voice to that issue. There is a sense that, Trump and the Republican Party is sort of coming for folk like you and I, right? And what do I mean? I mean, folk like, I'm thinking of your 2015, the Abolishing White Masculinity piece, right? Yes. And the Crisis in Whiteness, right? And that book and some of the books that I've written are exactly the kind of book that Trump is trying to seek to ban from schools and ban from federal governments, blah, blah, blah. I even noticed the other day, and I don't know if you've seen it, but the University of Memphis just banned DEI training. And I imagine other state legislators and schools is going to follow suit, especially if he wins tomorrow. What are your thoughts about this, Miss?
It's utterly ridiculous, right? And what we are seeing, we just have to be honest and call it what it is, right? We are seeing the rise of white nationalism. And if we are not careful, we will be living the third Reich in the United States. And I'm serious. This is my area of expertise, right? And just realizing and recognizing, first of all, that what Hitler and the Nazi Party were able to implement in Germany during that time is based off of what they learned in the United States and the way in which not just our eugenics program as an ideology worked, but the way in which the law supported white supremacy and indoctrinated and inculcated the subjugation of anyone who was not white in our country. And so they studied the United States, and we are moving along that path. I tell people tomorrow is not going to be some go to bed and wake up and everything is fine. The rise of violence is at its precipice. It's going to happen in our country. We just saw how state troopers allowed for the highway to be shut down in Colorado by Trump ralliers and did nothing. And then the same thing happening in Texas, where the Biden campaign's bus was overrun and taken and shut down by Trump ralliers. So there is a rise in white nationalism that's happening. And because of this administration on the ground, locally, we will see that, but also institutionally. If you are Yale, if you are a university like the University of Memphis or elsewhere, and you are responding to the executive order around DEI or what have you, it's the easier road to take, right? To just stop the training and go to court. Yale is being sued by the Department of Education because they finally, after centuries of their racism, finally began to articulate that they have participated in institutionalized racism. And then Betsy DeVos came along and said, well, if that is the case, then we need all of our federal dollars back because, so we are seeing it happen. It is ridiculous, which is why individuals like you and I, we have to stay vigilant in what we teach and what we do, whether in the classroom or in community.
No question. Man, I can talk to you all day. I tell you what, can you hang in there with me for the rest
I
of the
can
time?
hang in here. Yes.
Cool. Because I do want to bring this next sister up. But I want to ask you, but now that I know that I can only ask you one question now, that I ask you another one later. I'm glad you said yeah, because I want to hang in there with you. And I think the sister we're going to bring in, you might appreciate as well. Somebody just asked you kind of a question. Your soror, right?
Yes.
Is poised to be the second in command of the United States.
Yes.
And look, you know me, all my dreams are painted in pink and green. You know what I'm saying? So how do you feel about her as being a candidate and a potential front runner, honestly, in that case, for the 2024 presidency?
I think that this is a historical moment for our nation. And I hope that people, support and do elect the Biden-Harris ticket. I think that she is a brilliant woman. We definitely need to have some conversations around race and sexism. Even in the way that people have looked at her past, it's definitely a level of sexism on top of the racism, because her role as a prosecutor has been held to task in ways that Eric Holder, his role as a prosecutor, was not held to task. And even the way in which she navigated some things, especially around domestic and sexual violence, that yes, put a lot of Black men in prison. But just because you're Black does not mean you get to exploit Black women and Black children, right? So we need to have very serious conversations, because she is a brilliant woman. I'm not saying that she is without critique, but this is a historical moment for this country, and she is poised to be. She is poised to be the front runner for 2024. And if we continue to say that Black Lives Matter, then we need to think long game. That is what I will give to the GOP. They are long game strategists in ways that the Democratic Party is not.
Yeah. I'm gonna write this down because I want to get back to that long game. But I'm glad you said you'll stay with us, because we have to bring in a local giant of a sister.
I think there's a little bit of technical difficulty, but that's all right. We know that they will get it straightened really quickly.
Okay, cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking to the Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rose Spalding of the University of Colorado Springs, and she's going to stay on with us as we travel about 1,100 miles west of her to Dayton, Ohio, as we welcome the executive director and president of the Dayton Young Black Professionals, Miss Deja. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Dr. Bailey?
Oh, I feel all right. I want to introduce you to Dr. Spalding. Can you say hello? Can you all see each other?
Hello.
How you doing, Dr. Spalding?
I am well. It's so good to meet you, Miss Deja.
Nice to meet you too. I was just in the waiting room, like, wow, I can't wait to talk to her. So I'm glad.
I know you will.
Nice.
Yeah, no, for sure. So actually, let's just jump right in there. I don't know how long you were on, Deja, but one of the things we were talking about was the financial support for Black elected officials, right? And obviously, I know all the work that, we'll talk a little bit more about the organization, but I know you're on the ground with all the young folk in Dayton who are running inclusion, including, in Desiree. And so I want to have you talk about what have you seen in terms of the actual support of dollars and bodies when it comes to these candidates?
I guess it really depends. So we have Desiree Timms, who's here. We also have Willis Blaqsage. So, with them being our age group, I do see a lot of us supporting them. Now, I can't speak for financially, you know what I mean? But it takes that from us for us to do the things that we need to do. We can't just expect, someone else will go ahead and take care of that. Like, all we have to do is post and stuff like that. Like, that's not the only thing that determines that for them. They need our support all the way around. You know what I mean? But Desiree Sims is actually my big sister's best friend, so I've known her my entire life, really.
Nice. And I think that is amazing what you all are doing, just organizing young Black professionals, because what I know to be true is the earlier that we get invested in local elections and the political process, the longer that we get to structure transformational change, right? So we were looking at those investments in our economy and hiring Black professionals. It starts early, and we need young folks as in high school organizing so that the long game works out in their favor and those dollars come back. Like, it is an investment that those dollars come back to our communities.
Yeah, and we have to. So with the Dayton Young Black Professionals, my nonprofit organization, like, yes, we have young in the name, but it's an intergenerational approach intentionally. I know I don't know everything. I know it's some younger people that definitely don't know everything, and it's some older people that can learn a different way to things. So, we all need each other to do different things, but the main point of our organization is to inform. So yes, we know that we need to do that. We're at that level where we understand that, but how do we translate that to someone who's never even thought about voting ever before? Like, how do you let them know, like, oh, well, if you vote, it kind of determines how much money, your school gets, that your kid goes to. You know what I mean? Like, we literally have to break it down to let people know, like, yo, we're voting because we need this, 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 and this. Black people are so used to benign neglect that we get, and we're like, you know what? We're resilient. We'll make it happen. But we don't have to always do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we have to let each other know, like, hey, that's a problem. We could check him about that or get him up out of there or something. You know what I mean? But just having those conversations sparks people's minds to let them know what they need to do and different ways to do it.
Absolutely.
And again, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I would say you are doing exactly what has to be done. I know it feels like a lot of work, but that's the kind of work that we need. We need people at kitchen tables having conversations, at barbershops, and not just every 4 years when we have a presidential election. We need you all taking high school students to lobby at the Capitol to let them know that their representatives work for them and that they should be an email or a phone call away to have access to these local individuals, their school board. We need y'all taking them to the school board meetings. We need you all taking them to sit in at city council meetings and to listen, to hear how budgets get determined. People didn't know in Colorado Springs that 47% of our city's budget went to public safety.
Right.
Almost half the city budget is going to like policing or law enforcement in some form. That's a problem, right? So we need that so that people see how it connects to their everyday lives.
Yeah, no, that's important. And Sister Deja, every time I listen to you and the members of your crew, you all are always speaking extremely positively about Dayton, especially West Dayton, and positively about its future. You are one of the most ardent advocates I know in the area. Well, when so many young adults find themselves to be a bit pessimistic and maybe even often apathetic, what keeps your love for Dayton alive?
I will say that was me 90% of the time, just like everybody else, but we know everything that's wrong already. So it's just like, do we still want to keep talking about that, or do we want to change the narrative and, give people hope? You know what I mean? Like, you can only talk about negative things so much. Like, I know that that's some people's thing, but like, I got to get off the phone with my mom.
All right. Sister Deja, I'm gonna need you to, if you can, I'm gonna need you to get a wire mic here. So we want to, we're talking to Sister Deja Dimmons from the Dayton Young Black Professionals, as well as Dr. Stephanie Spalding, who also is from Colorado Springs, University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. Sister Deja, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I'm sorry. So you were just saying that at some point, all the naysaying, all the negative talk has to be converted into energy, and that energy needs to be in constructive energy. That's the last thing I can remember you talking about.
That's exactly what it is. What you say is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you put that out there. You know, if you wake up in the morning like, oh man, I can already tell this about to be a bad day. My legs is cramping. The legs is gonna be cramping, even if they not for real, and you're gonna have a bad day because that's what you said. So it's just like, let's just try to switch that up. We could change the narrative. Yes, there's bad things everywhere. Right. No city is perfect. LA ain't perfect. You know what I mean? Greece and all of these beautiful places we keep seeing, we only see the pretty parts. You know, there's somebody that's working there that has hope, that's trying to change it so that all of it can look pretty like that.
Right.
That's all we want to do is just instill that hope in West Dayton.
Right. And what do you attribute to the energy? I mean, I know, like I said, you have a big sister, you have people who are engaged. I just saw the BT Awards and Yellow Pain got some love. I mean, what do you attribute, this sort of political activity that's going on in Dayton around young and younger spirited people?
We are a product of our village. We are a manifestation of our village. We're just, some of us are just at a level of consciousness about it that we can act on it. You know what I mean? Everything that we have to do should be done with intent. Desiree Tim's cousin is Yellow Pain. She that wrote the song and everything. Like, we have to find a different way to engage with everyone. Everyone's not, seasoned and want something in the mail or, want something tangible. We have to find different ways so we can attract different minds. You know what I mean? Nobody thinks the same. So just taking that approach with everything that we're doing with our vote. Some people that don't get on social media or don't listen to music, they hear Yellow Pain talking about it. Some people don't listen to music and they, all they do is they're on Facebook. They see something about the West Dayton Early Voting Initiative. You know what I mean? So we're just all covering different places. It's one highway, 60 different lanes. You know what I mean? We're all going the same way and we all need each other to get there.
Aren't you excited about that, Stephanie?
I am. I love every bit of that. I'm curious to know, because again, I am feeling your energy and loving the work that you all are doing out in West Dayton, and it is having national reach. But again, with very intentional purpose of elevating Dayton. So 5 years from now, you look back, what do you say? We did this. This is what we set out to do. These are our accomplishments.
So one thing I can say, and we can stand on it, we can knock on wood, we can do whatever. Everything that we say that we're going to do, we do. Everything as far as, mentoring the youth, making sure that we don't have any grocery stores in Dayton. In 7 zip codes, there is no grocery store.
Jesus.
We're still doing the things that we need to do to have West Dayton give backs is what we call it. And we give out 750 meals, fresh vegetables, all local stuff that stuff that we would eat, not just giving frozen chicken fingers and stuff. Right. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with frozen chicken fingers. That's probably top 3 on my list. But just making sure that people have the stuff that's going to help them, in a healthy way. We're going to say that we changed the narrative of West Dayton doesn't vote. That's for sure. That's 100%. This starting October 19th, we started the West Dayton Early Voting Initiative.
Nice.
And we send out a call to action to every business, church, for-profit, nonprofit, organization, group of friends, gangs, whatever you want it to be, just telling them that if you call Dayton home, your entire organization needs to go early vote.
Yes.
We don't have enough poll workers, of course, you know what I mean? And that the longer that we wait, the more voter suppression kind of does its thing. So we just try to, encourage people to handle that early, as early as you possibly can. But in all actuality, you can vote early, you can vote late, you can vote the day of, as long as we're voting.
Yes.
And 5 years from now, they'll look back and say, wow, like we seen a significant change in the voting. And in Ed Gordon's book, Conversations in Black, he talks about the new Black voting muscle, which is millennials. We really do have the amount of people to make or break in an election. So we just need to make sure that we understand that we have that power and we utilize that power. So that's all we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Love it. So, Jason, I know last week's shows I had was dedicated to HBCUs, and it just happened to be the case that all three of us in this room right now are graduates from HBCUs. So let's just ask you real quickly. I mean, I know it's the next week, it's not last week, but what's your thoughts on HBCU life and its impact on who you are today?
If it wasn't for my experience with my HBCUs, the Central State University and Wilberforce University, by the way, but no, if I didn't have that experience, then I wouldn't have been able to do my TED Talk. My TED Talk was on intergenerational mentorship, but for us, my TED Talk is about Sankofa. And my first conscious moment of understanding Sankofa, freshman year at HBCUs, you have to take like a first year seminar class or something. So the teacher had asked, I want you guys to answer a question. You don't have any homework in this class because it was just a chill class, but just to get you acclimated to your newly found adult life or whatever. She was like, I'm gonna ask you guys a question. I don't want you to answer it, but tell me how your village has contributed to your life up until this moment. And that is what my entire TED Talk starts off about. Like, that's when I really understood like what I was doing, even though I didn't want to be a leader. Like, I never wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be line leader, because that was cool, but I wasn't the talker. I didn't feel like people listened to me. I didn't, I just didn't think that was my thing. So to have that open up something for me that kind of like, I really didn't finish my TED Talk until like 2 days before. It's because I'm actively living what I'm writing. So it was hard for me. Like my TED Talk is broken into 3 parts, like where, that kind of triggered to go back to my 5th grade year when I started my rites of passage class, like the first time that I ever heard of a village. And then my little sister, like being my legacy now, like from me being the first person in college to graduate from college in my family to my little sister being the current Miss Wilberforce. Like her campaign title was Legacy. You know what I mean? And then to where I'm at right now, like this part was so hard to figure out because it's like I'm actively living what I'm talking about, but I'm still struggling, but I'm still vulnerable and still looking back and still making sure that I'm letting people know so we can figure out how, I can move forward with other people that are doing the same things that I'm doing. So if it wasn't for my HBCU, I probably wouldn't know myself.
I know that's right. And Stephanie, I'm gonna ask you. I mean, you're a product of Clark Atlanta. I mean, what did Clark Atlanta do for you?
I will say Clark Atlanta saved my life because I could not, I could not be the person that I am today had I not attended Clark Atlanta and learned resiliency in a very intellectual and spiritual way. Like you walk those grounds in the AUC, you see the connection and the relationship between Spelman Morehouse, Morris Brown, and CAU. And it's the place that I began to look at internalized oppression. It's the place that I began to look at white supremacy and how it functions and operates in our society writ large. And to understand what W.B. Du Bois was talking about in regard to a talented 10, even if I don't necessarily agree with his ideology, it opened my mind to begin to look at the power that we as Black people have that we, have not tapped into in mass collective ways prior to. So I will say Clark Atlanta saved my life. It taught me how to find a way or make one because, our HBCUs certainly need resources that other campuses don't necessarily have. And there was no excuse. Like my professors were like, I could care less if you don't have money to print. You better have that paper, like figure it out. So it taught lessons that by the time that I got to a place like Purdue and I saw students who were coming into those spaces as first generation, and that was their first collegiate experience, like I was like, man,
you should have went to an HBCU.
And we didn't take it so personally, and we didn't break in ways that I saw other people break under that thumb of white supremacy, right? Like we understood who we were, and we were, even if we didn't have the tools, we were confident in knowing that intellectually we belonged in the space.
Right. No, I mean, I think though, and as we kind of wrap this up, I do think that given what we were talking about earlier, Stephanie, about, the way Trump has, one signed executive order, but even outside of that, just inaugurated and sort of spearheaded this sort of, this wave of white nationalism. I do think that there needs to be a serious look among parents and grandparents and aunties and uncles and pastors and, quite frankly, school counselors at the importance of HBCUs. So many students that I teach now, I'm grateful to teach here at Wittenberg University, but so many students of color I speak to now tell me, hey, my high school counselor never even mentioned a Black college to me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting up here like, well, I guess I'm glad you're here, but damn. You know what I'm saying? And I know,
the anxiety that they're experiencing. One, we're in a global pandemic, but added with the layer of racism of trying to show up as a student, I'm like, we need to invest in our HBCUs.
No question.
That's my plan always. Always.
Yeah, I always hear you repping, Deja.
Too, man. Like, we don't talk about HBCUs here in Dayton, and we're 30 minutes away from
two of them, right?
You know what I mean? That's problematic. So I guess that's just something that we're going to have to push on our own, like everything else that we want, which is completely fine by me.
I did have Dr. Jack Thomas on last week, and we were talking about his vision for the West Campus. And he was saying that he certainly wants to expand it. He certainly wants to engage more and get out. Obviously, it's been doing great things over there, but it wants to do more. And so I certainly urge you, if you haven't already, and if you need me to help, I will. I urge you to make sure that you have a sit down with him and see in what ways can your organization and Central State kind of partner in that area.
Yeah, we actually just started a partnership with Central State and Wilberforce called the Gem City Connection.
Okay.
Wilberforce Royal Court actually put it on. So we had them come down, speak at a voting event. We'll probably do something with Thanksgiving. The history is rich between West Dayton and Central State and Wilberforce.
No question. Yeah.
Just everything that we need to know, it's already happened before. You know what I mean? So we just need to learn what happened and know how to maneuver it in this time. So
no question. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a problem. If it is, we'll just have to have people have their imagination. You wouldn't happen to have a sweatshirt around you, Deja, do you? To show on the screen, because we got to give one away.
Nope, but I got one to give away.
I know you do. That's okay. So listen, I meant to bring mine, and somehow I left it. But listen, audience, we have a Dayton Young. We have a Dayton Young Black Professionals sweatshirt that we want to give to somebody in the audience. So right now, if you can inbox me, I'm gonna probably take the third inboxer. So if you inbox me either on the show or on my personal page, I will certainly take you, and then I'll get your size and address, and Deja will mail you one. And so we're just excited to support them, but more so we want you to be engaged in what the Dayton Young Black Professionals are doing. And so we're just excited for everything that they do. I am such a fan, and I'm such a supporter of what they do, and I'm going to continue to be that way. I do want to ask you, we're closing to the end, but I do want to ask you maybe in 1 minute, like talk to people like Dr. Rose and I, and say, what can people like us do in your sort of intergenerational mentorship model?
First thing is, we don't know what we don't know. We understand that, things are going to be critiqued. Just help us figure out a solution, that kind of deals with our times. Everything that worked before doesn't necessarily work now, especially that people are different and things like that. So be willing to share your stories, your failures and your successes, because we need both to figure out which way we should navigate to do the work that we want to do.
All right. Reverend Doctor, you have any last minute?
Again, I am grateful for the both of you and the work that you all are doing, the reach that you are touching, and I just want to be there, as y'all continue to soar and rise. Let me watch from a distance.
For sure. I did have a question here by somebody. I ain't gonna call them out, but the question was, do you still have a jump shot, Deja?
Oh, is the camera on freeze?
Oh, okay. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we have certainly. Are you back? Uh-oh, I think we're gone. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your time. We thank you for your ability to join us today with Dr. Stephanie Rose and Spalding and her extraordinary work that she does in Colorado, especially at the University of Colorado Springs. Certainly, we want to thank our final guest, and Deja Demings, and let's just keep her lifted in prayer as well as support. Remember, again, the third person to inbox me will certainly get a sweatshirt from the Dayton Young Black Professionals. And then, of course, obviously, our first guest was another doctor in Cynthia Richards. And those of you who are in the Springfield, New Carlisle, Enid area, you want to make sure if you haven't already voted, please consider voting for my colleague, my friend, Dr. Cynthia Richards. Listen, thank you for coming today. I know we're a little bit over time. Wednesday, we hope to, it'll be powerful, right? I should tell you who you, yeah, I'll tell you on the show real quickly. So we have Joelle Jones out of Dayton, who certainly is a powerhouse in and of herself, a community activist and founder of an organization. We have, again, coming back to the show, Ms. Morgan Harper, attorney Morgan Harper, out of Columbus, and all the great work that she does for Columbus Stand Up. We're going to have her. We're going to have the mayor of Dayton, Ryan McLean, is going to come back. She's also, as you know, the head of the Montgomery County Board of Elections and the vice chair of the Democratic Party for the state of Ohio. Wednesday, talking about everything election for an hour, maybe even an hour and a half. Who knows? I'll see you Wednesday. Take care. Stay strong.